Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's happening, man? Hope you guys are doing good, man. I know my day's going pretty good, man. Another great day, right? Another great day sobriety, another great day to be alive. Yes, it is. So what's happening, man? Well, check this out. If you would please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers, and for those of us who are still bound down to some sort of struggle, man, that keeps us from moving forward in this toxic life that we live in, man. So yeah, if you would please join me in a moment of silence. God, grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. All right. Well, now that we got that squared up and out of the way, check this out, man. I got a little something for you guys today. I think you guys might like it. Hope you do. Hope that hopefully this is something that needs someone needs to hear it. Maybe hopefully that it helps somebody out today. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole purpose of doing things here on this video podcast, man, is to teach and to express and to share new messages, new concepts, new ideas. You know what I mean? Just to kind of give you a little nudge. You know what I'm saying? Maybe give you a little nudge, maybe a little light a little fire, and give somebody a pep in that step to move up, move forward in their life a little bit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people in this world that we live in, I known from experience and through people that share in the rooms that I go to and stuff like that. A lot of people are missing, man. They're missing this fire. They're missing this want, this feeling of want to move forward. They feel like they're in this just whirlwind of this non thing of that they're just spinning their wheels. You know what I'm saying? And it could be like that a lot of times, man. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that we deal with in our lives that make it feel like, man, it's the same old, the same old bump and grind. You know what I mean? And it feels like you get nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And I got something. I think this is gonna this is what I'm gonna share with you guys today. I think it kind of coincides with that type of thinking, like, for this video. You know what I'm saying? Kind of get people's mind to see where we're going to go with this, and it's and just to I think for me personally, when I learned this thing that I'm going to talk to you about, it made a whole lot more sense. Things made a lot more sense to me and allowed me to progress and move forward in not only my personal life but in my spiritual life. That for me has been the biggest motivator, if you will, in dealing with things in my life is it had this spiritual sense. You know what I'm saying? Understanding things in a spiritual lens versus understanding things just through my personal, life. You know what I mean? Just through the steps of how you're moving. You know what I'm saying? And when you incorporate a spiritual lens to that, it allows you to interpret different things the way you see them. You know what I mean? And I like that. You know what I mean? Because a lot of us, I know myself personally, man, I was living in this, this just frame of mind that was just here. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't looking past. I didn't think outside the box. I wasn't looking or trying to allow myself yet, and much less anybody else, into this little world of mine. You know what I mean? So but yeah, so this thing that we're going to talk about today has really allowed me to drop some curtains, man, and be open-minded, truthful, and willing to change. You know what I'm saying? In a good way, man, in a very good way, and I'm grateful for that, man. So, but anyway, let's get to it. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is a term that is used the in the Buddhist practice, and the term is called Dukka. It's Dukka, and Dukka is a Sanskrit term that is just translated into, it's another word for suffering. Okay, and the first part of that word, it's halved up and there's a metaphor to this word, that the first part of that word, the duk, it means um, that means like discomfort or is suffering. You know what I'm saying? And the ka means a whole. And what happened with this word is they got this and put it together, and it's a term. The whole, the duk, the ha, the ka at the end of dukkha is, it's the whole that's in an axle of a wheel. So they put this together, and now you got this hole and this axle, and it's misaligned. So now it's turning. I don't know. Have you ever pushed a cart maybe at the local grocery store, and you get a cart that has this little pebble or something on the wheel, and now you're just boom, boom. It's just this annoying way, right? Or one of the wheels has a piece of rubber carved out of it that came off, and now you're kind of just bumping. You know what I mean? There's always this discomfort in pushing that, this annoying feeling, and that is how they got the term dukkha. And so it's a sense of understanding that life is like that. You know what I mean? Understanding that there is suffering in life, and there's always going to be a discomfort, and learning how to live with that discomfort and coming to the realization that, hey, you know what? This is life. Suffering is life. There's no way around this. You know what I mean? And when you accept the fact that this is happening, then you can in turn there start making this mental thought of, okay, I'm accepting this fact. Now, how do I work past this suffering to move forward, right? And it's kind of it's kind of weird because the dukkha is also related to a term called sukha, which is sukka, and what sukha is happiness or joy, you know, and so it's and they coincide. You know what I mean? They're intertwined into one. So where there's suffering, there's gonna be joy, and where there's joy, there's gonna be suffering. It's kind of almost like a hermetic term in a sense. You know what I mean? It goes back to in a sense, kind of like one of the hermetic laws. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of sounds like that because where there's light, there's going to be dark. You know, as below, as above is, so is below, and below, and there's above, and there's if something swings to the right, it's going to swing to the left just the same. You know what I'm saying? And this goes back to our life being this life of cycles. You know what I'm saying? There's suffering, but suffering doesn't last forever. Our life is a life of impermanence, right? And nothing lasts forever. But how you mentally prepare yourself for that is where I believe my understanding of the process of dukkha and sukha, it really kind of put things in perspective for me in my personal journey, because it allowed me to understand a little bit better that, you know what, just because I went through all this trauma, just because I was, you know, went through this addiction, and just because, you know, that doesn't mean that this is where I stay. This doesn't mean that I have to wallow in this bowl of misery, you know what I'm saying? In this bowl of suffering. because there's a way to move past this. Doesn't mean that it's that you no longer have this suffering. It's just seeing it in a different light. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I like about that term and that practice, because it allows you to not it allows you to let go of things. You know what I mean? It allows you to let go of things, and when you do that, it allows you to let go whether it's of joy or of suffering. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, when there's joy, the joy doesn't last forever. You know what I mean? When you attain something that makes you joyful, then you start suffering because you want something else to replace this joy, because that joy only lasts so long. You know what I mean? People get bored of the joy, or it no longer brings them joy. So now they're looking for something else. And this is, it's I like it because it allows you to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? It allows you to deal with it in a different way. And when you put that in a spiritual perspective, it makes more sense. I mean, it did for me anyway. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm going to do for you guys is I want to read you this thing that talks about the Dukka and Sukha, and I think it's a really cool little paragraph, and I want to share it with you guys because it was one of the things that allowed me to understand it a little bit more, and perhaps it'll do the same for you, just in case you're kind of not seeing eye to eye here or understanding exactly what I'm talking about. But this paragraph that I'm going to read you will hopefully bring us back in line. You know what I'm saying? So let me take these glasses off here and replace them with these things, because I can't read nothing with these. I could just look cool with these, you know what I mean? But anyway, here we go. All right, and this is coming from Steve Hagen's book, Buddhism Plain and Simple. And it's this book right here, so you guys can see that. And okay, let me get on with it. And it says, the second truth of the Buddha Dharma is the arising of dukkha. Dukkha arises from thirst, craving, wanting, trying to get the object of our desire into our hands. This craving or wanting appears in three different forms. The first is a sensual desire, that we tend to think that this is purely physical, but it is also mental. Of course, we want comfortable yet stimulating physical sensations, but we also want good intellectual stimulation, good conversation, a balance of emotional life, enjoyable art and entertainment, and so on. Our sensual craving is in fact mostly mental. Our second form of craving is our thirst for existence itself. We don't want to die. We want to somehow persist, live on forever. But even if we could abandon our thirst for existence, there's still a third form of craving that plagues us. The thirst for non-existence. We want to be released from this form of pain and vexation once and for all. Dukkha arises repeatedly in our hearts and minds as these three forms of craving. When we don't realize that this is so, we forget this moment and get caught up in longing and loathing, desiring some things to come or stay and others to go. Virtually all the woes of humankind stem from these three forms of craving. Our greatest pains are thus all self-inflicted. Name what afflicts you, and you will ultimately find a link to your craving, your wanting, your desire. And it goes on to say, but we tend not to notice this. Basically, we're confused about what we actually want. We don't easily see that all we really want, all any of us want, is simply to be awake. We don't want to be confused. We don't want to go through life in a state of ignorance, but generally, we're ignorant of this. Because we ignore the deep need of the heart, we seek to appease our desire by acquiring a blocking out. We fancy that some combination of money and fame and love and lack of stress will drive away all our woes, but nothing that can be acquired ever does, and we know it. The awakened do not promise that our 83 problems and vicissitudes of daily life will go away. No, the ups and downs of life remain with life. But dealing with the 84 problems in seeing the arising of dukkha, our problems are not exactly problems anymore. Yeah, so that comes out of, again, like I said, the Stephen Hagen Buddhism Plain and Simple book, and this book again right here. So if you guys missed it the first time, you can check that out. Very good book, man. Very informative, and it's very it's well written in the sense that it doesn't give you these, Sanskrit and all these, ancient terms, you know what I mean? That a lot of people, when they read books, man, they get into these ancient terms and things that are not in plain English, and they tend to get discouraged, and they don't move on with the readings. And I like this book because it has interpreted the basic Buddhist principles and stuff like that in a very in layman's terms, in a sense, you know what I'm saying, in very very basic English type stuff, and it's very easy to understand, and I like that. But anyway, going back to the term dukkha, man, and so that thing that we read right there is it's one of those things, man. You know what I mean? It's when you live your life in this suffering form of dukkha that generates this sense of mind that it craves to want. It craves to seek. And for a lot of us, like, myself personally, that has dealt at one point in time in my life with addiction, I could understand that. You know what I'm saying? I could understand how I was in this suffering mode, and I was searching for things that were to give me this excitement, to give me this sense of acceptance, a sense of whatever feeling I needed to feel at the time. You know what I mean? And not until, and in dealing with other things, like the stress or the trauma or just the just different types of suffering. A lot of us tend to, and this is everybody, I'm assuming, that when you're suffering in any way, shape, or form, you're always looking for this out, right? So we're searching for this thing that takes place of that, so that we find this joy and this fulfillment, right? Which again, when you reach it, you have it. Life's impermanent, things are of impermanence. So when you get this joy also is of impermanence. This feeling of, oh, relaxing, oh, finally I'm here, is of impermanence, because then you're just like, okay, well, what's next? And you're seeking another form of that. And the cycle moves on, and it just goes on, because now that joy has turned into the suffering of you wanting something else. You know what I mean? So it's just this whole cycle of different transformations. You know what I'm saying? And that's, to me, when I understood that and put it into practice in my spiritual life, then it just made sense to me that if I keep myself in a sangha and practicing a dharma, and the sangha means community, right? Dharma means the practice, and when I involve myself that way in my spirituality and combine it with my personal life, now I have outs. You know what I'm saying? Now I have a sangha, a community that I can interact with, that I can go and lean on if I need to. You know what I'm saying? I could go to get some advice if I need it. I could go to get more knowledge, more wisdom, so that I can move forward in my spiritual and personal life. You know what I mean? And that's where the Dharma comes in. The Dharma meaning the practice. Because there's many, and you know, don't get this confused with this just being a Buddhist thing. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't have to be like that. This is that's the thing I like about the Buddhist practice, is that you can be a Buddhist in any other part of your life. You know what I'm saying? You can incorporate these teachings, these practices in any part of your life and anything that you do, because it doesn't say that you have to be a member of a Buddhist thing, or you got to go to the temple, or you got to chant these mantras, or you got to meditate for so long, or whatever. No, none of that. It's not like that. You know what I'm saying? There's no. This is food for everyone. You know what I'm saying? This Buddhist thing, these terms that we're talking about, these practices that I'm talking about, this is food for anyone. This is not a bias looked at something, or a discriminatory way of things. You know what I'm saying? This is for anybody, man. And that's why I like it, because it allowed me to really move forward in my life in a spiritual way. And that's what really, I don't know, it, for me personally, it just makes you feel more alive, more of wanting to not only help yourself and be compassionate to you, but that overflows and you want to share that with everybody else, and and help somebody else. You know what I mean? Because you feel the hurt of other beings. You know what I'm saying? And you don't even know them. You know what I mean? You could watch something on a video, or on the news, or just see somebody that you're walking and cross paths, and you could feel. I don't know, but you know, for me personally, I could feel this. This has allowed me to heighten my senses, man. You know what I mean? And my senses and my spiritual being and my spiritual connection with that divine energy. I've always had this ability to sense these things since I was a kid. You know what I mean? And was always afraid of it, but as I've gotten older and did a lot more research in the things that happened to me and stuff like that, I understand that it's a spiritual thing. You know what I mean? And that's what I like about it, man. And I feel connected. You know what I'm saying? I feel grounded to Mother Earth. I feel connected to that divine energy. And I feel that when I speak, I'm speaking through the things that that energy is telling me to do. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but I know that it feels good in my heart and soul. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I do things on this channel. That's why I share things on this channel, because I feel that if I don't share those things, I would be doing myself and you guys a disservice if I wouldn't share the things that have helped me to get to where I'm at today. You know what I mean? In my spiritual journey, getting past all these different types of traumas and adversities. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I wanted to share that Dukka and that, you know, a little bit of that book with you guys, because I really like it, man, and I really, it really made sense to me. You know what I'm saying? And because ultimately, dealing with the Dukka, dealing with suffering is just a way of our life. You know what I mean? It's a way of our life, and for a lot of us, we tend to get into this thing where we don't we get stuck. You know what I mean? For a lot of us, suffering puts us in this form of living life in the mud, if you will. You know what I mean? And I mean, if you ever gotten stuck in the mud and walking through the mud, you know, sometimes, man, you get stuck and you can't pull your foot out of that thing. You know what I'm saying? And it feels like that. You know what I mean? It feels like that, dude. But what I like about the practice is that if you practice these things, it starts allowing you to flow. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is when you start flowing, if you start relaxing yourself and living in the moment and seeing things through a different lens, through a lens of not only dukkha but of sukha, both, and seeing uh, how you can mesh that in with your personal life, your spiritual life, man. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, you're going to be able to mesh that stuff together, man, and get this color, you know what I mean, of your suffering, your joys, and your life, and plaster this on a piece of paper, and it's going to be your color. You know what I mean? And when you do that, you're able to see what it is that you need to work on and see what it is that you need to, you know, pay attention to, nurture a little more, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? And that's what I like about it, man, because ultimately our suffering is where our problem is and where our answer is. You know what I mean? And that, to me, I found that to be, gosh, just about right every single time, man. Whenever I dissected my suffering and tried to figure out what do I do here, the answer was always in the suffering. You know what I mean? And I believe that's just the way it is. I think that's our life. You know what I mean? And to try it sometime, man. You know what I mean? If you're suffering through something, if you're, you know, really, you know, dissect that. You know what I mean? And 99% of the time, man, you're gonna find out that the answer to moving past that adversity, that trauma, that suffering is gonna be in that adversity, in that trauma, in that suffering, man. So yeah. And you just remember that you got to look at it with a different lens. You know what I mean? Don't. And when I say that, I mean you have to look at it in a lens of being open-minded, truthful, and willing to accept your reality and accept what you need to do. You know what I mean? So yeah. And anyway, man, I guess that's going to be it for today's video, man. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the topic. I hope maybe somebody understood something today that's going to help them in their, you know, in their journey, in their life, in their, you know, whatever it is that you're suffering through, whatever dukkha is in your life. You know what I mean? So yeah. But anyway, I guess that's going to be it for today's video, man. I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much. Couldn't do it without you guys, man. You know what I mean? So if you would, please, at this time, hit that subscribe button, man. Hit that bell. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a freaking comment, whatever, man. I greatly appreciate that stuff. So, yeah, and just know that when you do hit that subscribe button, it doesn't cost you a thing, man. It don't cost you a thing at all. But you know what? You'll be helping out another veteran, another homeless person, another person dealing with PTSDs, childhood traumatic experiences, trauma, drug addiction, alcoholism, suicidal thoughts, anger issues, sadness, grief, all of those types of things, my friends, because you know what? I have dealt with all of those things at one point in time in my life. And guess what, man? I know a way out. And my way out could be your way out. So until the next time, man, on When the Smoke Clears, I am the recovery plug.